Good evening. I missed the last meeting, and I wish I could say I was coming back from Arizona after a Purdue victory in the national championship. Unfortunately, it was a long flight home. But it's good to be here this evening. Good to see everybody. What a beautiful day. If you would, we get everybody to stand. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation by Pastor Rob Grimmentrop. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Father, your word is clear in Psalm 124 that our help is in the name of the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. And Father, your word is also clear that apart from you, we can do no good thing. So Father, we invite you tonight to guide, to instruct, to counsel, to shape the meeting and the agenda points tonight in this meeting, during and long after this meeting, not just what is discussed tonight. Holy Spirit, I ask that you would speak to each individual, give each person here ears to hear what you are saying, and hearts that are continue to grow increasingly obedient to what you are saying and what you want accomplished. Father, we pray your best for Westfield, Indiana, for our leaders, for our citizens, for those traveling to and fro and coming and going. We pray your best for each soul, each person in this place, in this time. And Father, to do that, we've set our eyes on you, because you are the giver of all good things. Lord, bless this time tonight as they meet, and we worship and we exalt you in this place. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right, President Tam, would you like to take the meeting, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Welcome to the City Council meeting this evening. Marla, may you note the presence of a quorum?
John Dart.
Here.
Joe Deppner. Noah Herron.
Here.
Chad Huff.
Here.
Victor McCarty.
Here.
Patrick Tam.
Here.
Kurt Waniger.
Here.
We have a quorum.
We have the minutes from the April 9th, 2024 meeting in front of us. I assume everyone's had the opportunity to read those. Any comments on the minutes? I do have one on the item on Resolution 24-112. I would just ask for a simple amendment. It's not a guarantee of the cost savings, it's a potential, and I think that would be more accurate in terms of the representation of what Oscar and with Bondry Consulting presented. As long as we hit markets right, timing, interest rates, and so forth, it's just the word potential. Marla, I don't know if you had any questions on that. That would be my only thought.
I will add that.
Okay.
Duly noted.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, can we have a motion and a second, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with the one change as President has suggested.
Second.
A motion made by Councilor Waniger, seconded by Councilor McCarty. May we call the roll?
Noah Herron.
Yes.
Chad Huff.
Yes.
Victor McCarty.
Yes.
Patrick Tam.
Yes.
Kurt Waniger.
Yes.
John Dart.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Next, thank you. Next on our agenda is the claim document for April 22nd. I assume everyone's had the opportunity to review that. Any discussion? And we can also entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the claims docket for April 22nd, 2024.
Second. Thank you. We have a motion by Councilor McCarty, a second by Councilor Huff. Any further discussion? Hearing none, may we call the roll?
Chad Huff.
Yes.
Victor McCarty.
Yes.
Patrick Tam.
Yes.
Kurt Waniger.
Yes.
John Dart.
Yes.
Noah Herron.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is residents who wish to address the council. And Director Todd, do we have anything this evening? Thank you. Next is the mayor with special orders of business. The first will be a proclamation declaring May 5th through May 11th as Municipal Clerks Week. Mayor?
Thank you. Can I get Miss Ayler up here for just a second? So we got a couple of proclamations this afternoon. And the first one is to declare Professional Municipal Clerks Week. And what is the actual week for this? I don't see it listed on here. May 5th. And if I just say a few words about Marla, we've worked together now just a little over 100 days, and it's been an absolute pleasure. The clerk's office is really, she's pushing right now. They're doing a lot of things. National Municipal Clerk is the oldest among public servants, not you personally. Whereas the Office of the Professional Municipal Clerk provides the professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at all levels. And whereas professional municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all. And whereas the professional municipal clerks serves as the information center on functions of local government and community. And whereas professional municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the Office of the Professional Municipal Clerk through participation in educational programs, seminars, workshops, annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations. And whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the Municipal Clerks Week in the city of Westfield, Indiana, invite all citizens to duly note this occasion. We further extend appreciation to our city clerk, treasurer, Marla Ayler, and to all professional municipal clerks for the vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to communities they represent. In witness whereof, I, Scott Willis, have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the great seal of the city of Westfield, Indiana, on this 22nd day of April, 2024.
I would. Thank you. Just want to thank the mayor and administration for putting this together for us. The staff seems to believe that this might be the first time that they were recognized during Professional Municipal Clerks Week, so we certainly appreciate it. It has been a privilege and an honor to serve with the mayor and this administration. I think things are going much better than they have in the past. I don't mind telling you I have the least amount of experience in our office, but the staff combined has over, I believe, 70 years of experience total. And they are an extraordinary group of individuals who not only keep the lights on and the agendas being produced, but in addition to the 18 responsibilities we have as clerks, we are also clerk treasurers still in Westfield, and we take that job very seriously. If there's anything that you need from our office, please know our door is always open.
We've got another proclamation for Letter Carriers Food Drive Day. And I would love to tell you a little bit about it, but I don't have near the experience and knowledge as Greg. So I'm going to hand you the mic first before we read the proclamation. If you could just tell our residents a little bit about what you do and what this event is.
I'd love to. Yeah, my name is Greg Gormong. I'm a city letter carrier in Carmel. I'm heading up our National Association of Letter Carriers Food Drive on May the 11th. And in fact, the area I cover is from Danville, Zionsville, Fishers, Westfield, all the way Fortville, even to Ingalls. So it's quite an undertaking here. And, coming out of COVID, everything that's going on, we really wanted to make a great push for this because in talking with the food pantries, they say everybody is great during Thanksgiving time, but when it comes around this time of year, they're kind of low on their stock. So that's why the National Association of Educators did this, because then that keeps their cycle going there, that they have plenty of food for families that need them. This is actually the 32nd year that they've done this, and they've donated almost 2 billion pounds of food. Now, this is across the entire United States. All 50 states and provinces do this, and they only go to local food pantries. It's not like we farm it out to anyone. And what we've done is we always solicit to residents. They've been always great about it, but in order to make this our best one, we're also soliciting businesses. They will also be receiving the cards that we produce each year. Hopefully they'll go out like the 4th of May. Again, this will be the second Saturday. It's always second Saturday in May, but it'll be May the 11th this year. So we're asking for residents, businesses, and then that's why we reached out to cities like Westfield to help promote the event, because you guys were so great through social media and this honor to kind of help promote the event. Because again, the more people see it, the more like, oh yeah, I want to do something to help that out. So I appreciate everyone's time.
And I just want to say thank you to our volunteers from Open Doors. If you've never volunteered at Open Doors, you owe it to yourself and your community to show up one morning on it. Usually Saturday mornings. What other mornings, Bruce? Monday evening, Tuesday morning, Thursday morning, and Saturday morning. I volunteered a little bit, but my wife and daughters have done much more than I have. It's a little bit of work, but it's so rewarding, and you're just giving back to your community. And a lot of people don't realize, even here in Westfield, we're a very lucky community. We're very blessed here. And a lot of people don't think we have poverty in Westfield, but we do. About 7% of our population is in poverty, and that's similar across the county. So we do have people, fellow Shamrocks in our community, who need your help. And Open Doors every day is doing wonderful things for our community, and I don't know what we would do without you guys, so we thank you for that. All right, let me read this proclamation. City of Westfield proclamation, whereas every year on the second Saturday in May, letter carriers across the country collect non-perishable food as part of the nation's largest one-day food drive, distributing the donations to local food banks. And whereas the letter carriers stamp out hunger food drive is just one example of how letter carriers work to make a difference in the lives of those they serve. Since the pilot drive was held in 1991, more than 1.9 billion pounds of food have been collected. And whereas we recognize that all their letter carriers for their hard work and their commitment to their communities, all of the food collected in our community stays in our community, and we support carriers' efforts to help those in need in our community. Whereas we also recognize the noteworthy milestone of 32 years that the National Association of Letter Carriers Food Drive celebrates in 2024. And now, therefore, I, Scott Willis, Mayor of the City of Westfield, do hereby proclaim May 11th, 2024 as Letter Carriers Food Drive Day. In the city of Westfield, Indiana, by all citizens to support the food drive by placing non-perishable food items in or near your mailbox on Food Drive Day. Your letter carrier will pick it up while delivering the mail, and together we can all help to feed our hungry. In witness whereof, I, Scott Willis, have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the great seal of the city of Westfield on this 22nd day of April, 2024.
Thank you so much. Congratulations. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You get in with that. And before I let everybody go, Councilor Waniger or Bruce, would either of you like to say a few words or about Open Doors? Or
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a great pleasure and an honor for us to be part of this food drive every year. And we much appreciate the work that the postal carriers do to collect all this food for us. Our particular pantry here in the last few years has collected over 30,000 pounds of food. And that's a lot of food. And it takes us a couple of months at least to sort through all that food and check. We touch every single piece of food to check for the date on it, to make sure that it's in date. And if it's not, it goes to the side. But the majority of it is. And this is a great honor for us. And we really appreciate your doing this for us, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, thank you.
thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you as well to from the council to our clerk treasurer's office and the fantastic help that you and then more importantly your team has been for us as well. And I know all of us get quite an earful in education from Councilor Waniger and Open Doors as well. But thank you to all the fabulous volunteers that absolutely do a fantastic job every day, taking care of a lot of people that need that type of help. Thank you. And then with that, we'll move on to our presentation of capital infrastructure projects. Director Nail.
Thank you. Good evening. For the record, John Nail, Director of Public Works, City of Westfield. Sure, I'll drive. There's not much to drive, but I'll drive. So I'm here tonight to talk about the capital improvement plan. We have been working, my staff and I, on this plan in accordance with Mayor Willis and the administration to talk about prioritizing certain capital improvements here in the city of Westfield, what we need to do over the next 8 to 9 years to really make sure that we're staying up with the growth we're seeing in the city. So this plan looks ahead through 2032. Again, that's a 8-year plus plan. Importantly, the plan remains tax neutral. So we are funding these projects through a variety of our revenue streams in public works. That includes cash from general fund, motor vehicle highway fund, local roads and streets funds, park impact fees, road impact fees, and geo bonds, among other sources of revenue. The first 26 projects I'll kind of show on the screen tonight are really projects that are already established. I've talked about them previously with Public Works updates. They're projects that we are in the midst of design on or moving towards construction on those projects. And then the last slide that I'll show tonight is an additional 26 projects that are really the bulk of the work that have gone into this capital improvement plan to really identify projects that we used to just call future projects, right? We had ideas that these were things that need to be done, but we've actually slotted them into time frames, construction timelines, and identified funding sources for these projects that'll be kind of the meat of the presentation. So little hard to read, but a table of the first 26 projects that really are current projects that we're actively working on. I'm not going to go through every single one of them. If you have specific questions, feel free to stop me. I'm happy to answer questions as we go. But these are projects like State Road 32 in the downtown Westfield area, Mule Barn Road widening, Tomlinson Road widening, projects I've talked about previously. 161st Street Spring Mill Roundabout is an important one in there as well, among a couple of park projects there at the bottom as well. And then the second and last slide is really the project we used to call future projects that we've really worked hard to identify timelines and funding on for the near future. So we are actively working on design for 191st Street from Tomlinson Road to Grand Park Boulevard. That's a 4-lane widening boulevard section roadway to help alleviate some of the congestion we're seeing getting into Grand Park. And then, again, I don't want to go through every single one, but there's many, many roundabouts on this list among them, and we've prioritized them from top to bottom, really, on this list of projects. But Grand Park Boulevard and 181st Street is the first one on that list, trying to improve some safety at that intersection. And I'll just highlight a couple other projects that are really important to our Public Works Department. So we expect to extend 191st Street's widening, not just from Tomlinson to Grand Park Boulevard, but also from Grand Park Boulevard then on over to Spring Mill Road. And so that's a project that we've looked at for quite a while. It is in the capital improvement plan as one of the top priorities to get a good arterial section on 191st Street all the way across the frontage of Grand Park Boulevard on the north side. Additionally, I'll highlight Westfield Boulevard Phase 2. This section of roadway is a new alignment roadway connecting from the intersection at 169th Street down to Lantern Commons. That would complete the Westfield Boulevard frontage road to the east of US 31, kind of all the way from Target down to the south end, all the way up into our downtown. We've got some trail projects as well. Monon Trail over 191st Street. This is a pedestrian bridge we're contemplating to replace the at-grade crossing that currently exists today. Again, addressing safety before safety problems really present themselves. We want to try and be proactive when it comes to safety in Westfield. And then another project I do want to highlight is the Town Road Realignment Project. This is really a function of Westwood Washington Schools building their campus to the west there on the north side of 32 west of Little Eagle Creek. It's really it's really making us look closely at Town Road, and we've always anticipated an extension of Town Road from 166th Street north to Sarah 32, which would be inclusive of a new alignment bridge over Little Eagle Creek. So that project is in the capital improvement plan as well. It's a really important project to help support the traffic coming from that west campus. There's a transportation center as well as a new middle school planned out there. Having a route to the south to really get to the west side of our town, or of our city, is really important. And then lastly, I'll just kind of highlight, we get some complaints from time to time on Spring Mill Road. The main complaints we get are a lot of left out of neighborhoods, particularly at peak hours. And so we've got on here a Spring Mill widening project from 146 all the way up to 191st Street. And when we say widening, what we're really doing is doing a study to look at how we can make spot improvements on this corridor to really address the concerns that we receive from residents. We're trying to avoid a full-blown 4-lane boulevard section if we don't have to do that. We'd much prefer to do spot improvements, perhaps roundabouts at certain strategic neighborhood entrances, maybe some widening and turn lanes at certain locations to really be cognizant of the total cost and not overbuild or overdesign a corridor that doesn't need it. So we're working on a study where we feel very confident that spot improvements could be done on Spring Mill to really alleviate a lot of these concerns. So with that said, the project in total includes $31 million of new roundabouts, $125 million of other road improvements, $16.7 million in trail projects, and then $12.5 million of additional park projects, for a total of $186 million in public works related projects over the next 8 years. Suffice to say, my staff will be very busy. We're excited for the challenge, and we're excited to get a lot of these projects underway. Again, tax neutral strategy, and I do want to point out that this is going to be a living document. It's not set in stone. So as we get costs for projects, a project goes to bid, we get real costs, we'll update this plan in real time. And, priorities can change, right? We're looking out 8 years in the future, doing our best to make assumptions and predictions. As things change, the plan will change as well. So I just want to point that out, that just because I'm presenting it here tonight, it's a living document. There may be changes in the future, but these are as we sit here today, these are the projects we foresee over the next 8 years. So with that, happy to answer any questions. I'm sure there will be several.
For roads that parallel or join our neighbors to the east, are you guys looking for cost shares, 50-50 cost shares on those intersection improvements at 161st and Gray, 191st and Shady, or Moontown, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you pointed that out. So this plan is really an all-inclusive project cost, assuming no grant funding, no cost shares. It is more of a worst-case scenario when it comes to these projects. So as we are able to succeed in getting grant funding or to work out interlocal agreements with our neighbors to help share in the costs, those costs will come down in the plan, and we'll reflect that as we are able to.
Just for your information, Councilor Dart and I may have brought that topic up face-to-face with the council president and vice president of Noblesville today.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
Well, a great example is at 161st and Gray Road. Mayor Jensen, myself, and County Commissioner Harebrant, that's probably going to be a 3-way split in costs. And the county really wants it. So Mayor Jensen and I are both saying, well, the county's going to have to ante up just a little bit more because it's not as big of a priority for us as municipalities, but we're looking for opportunities. 191st Street's another example. County's bringing $5 million into the project. We'll continue to seek out, opportunities to spread that load out a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And, just because there's a dollar amount in this plan, like I said, we're going to actively be looking to try and reduce costs where we can and get help on the costs from grants and other opportunities as needed.
So how did your team, Jonathan, prioritize this list? I mean, in my opinion, 161st and Gray is probably one of the most dangerous intersections in the city, split between Westfield and Noblesville, and it's out to 2030 or whatever. How did your team go about that?
Yeah, and that priority may change. As we get additional help from other interlocal agreements or other neighbors, we may be able to bump that up in the priority list. To answer your question, I mean, it's really a combination of understanding where we're getting concerns from our residents, really using crash data and data-driven analytics to try and determine where our needs are. And then importantly, with the new administration coming in, it's conversations with Mayor Willis and with the council to understand where they're hearing their constituents' concerns are coming from to make sure that we're going to be aligned on the priorities. And like I said, it's not to say that some priorities may change as development changes. We may need to bump that up. I think 161st and Gray is probably somewhat low on the list, although we do have accidents there, particularly in the wintertime. Fortunately, not a ton of severe accidents, for one. But two, understanding where the traffic counts are in the city. We see Cary Road get used a lot more north-south than Gray in general. And so we really try to use data as best we can to prioritize these.
When it comes to 161st and Gray, I think, Scott, maybe you and I spoke about this. Are there short-term solutions? So if something is 7-8 years out, maybe a big red flashing light, maybe some yellow flashers in each direction to just bring more awareness to that intersection.
Yeah, we've tried in the past to do some low-cost improvements, rumble strips. Sometimes sight distance can be an issue, so especially this time of year as leaves start coming in on trees. So there are absolutely opportunities to help mitigate some of those concerns. Potentially, we could work towards an early preliminary design and look to maybe acquire right away and do some sightline clearing in advance. That's another option that we can look at. The problem with that intersection in particular, sight distance is difficult. People that are unfamiliar maybe not be paying attention to the stop ahead signs we've put up, but there's a stop sign that kind of comes out of nowhere with the topography and coming down the hill from various directions. But I think that the long-term solution is certainly a roundabout that raises up and kind of eliminates some of those crest curves and some of the sight distance issues. But there are some things we'll look at doing in the meantime to help improve the situation.
And one thing I'll add, we want your input on this, counselors. It's your districts. You know your districts better than we do. So again, it's a living, breathing document. If you want to see changes or we've left something out, we meet monthly. Just reach out to me and we can talk through it. And I also want to stress that this is what I view this as a catch-up capital improvement plan. This is to deal with existing development and existing challenges in our city. This does not cover future development, meaning as we grow and as things go to the west and the north, we're going to continue to have to add projects. So hang on. We got a lot of infrastructure work to do. It's a huge priority of mine for a couple of reasons. One, it's the quality of life of our residents. And two, if we want to lure in great businesses, we have to have the infrastructure in place to support it. So I'm committed to making this a top priority for my administration. And I want to thank John for excellent work here. I mean, if you'd asked John 3 years ago, he could tell you this off the top of his head, but we've never memorialized this in a way that now all of our residents can pull up a plan, understand when's it going to be done, how much is it going to cost, how we're going to pay for it. I mean, this is a true capital improvement plan that I think is just going to make our city better in the long run.
Yeah, I think the funding component is the key piece there. I mean, we've identified these projects for a long time, but really putting pen to paper and understanding our financial position and really being confident that we can move forward with these in a tax neutral way is the key.
Was there a consideration in your plan on other resources, for example, headcount, or is that not part of this?
Strictly capital improvements, road trails, parks, not related to operating costs. That's obviously a budget item annually, and we take a close look at it every year with the budget.
I was just going to say thank you for all your hard work on this, because I know here in the beginning of the year, or let alone over the last couple of years, you get comments, questions all the time of, hey, what's the plan? What's happening? What's happening out in my now district, or just out by me out in the west, and so forth. And so looking through this, there's a lot of projects here that are going to make people, not just in my district, but all throughout Westfield, and as well as our visitors, very happy. So just once more, appreciate you. And now we have a document where we can point people towards. So.
Yeah, and I'll also add, I didn't mention in the presentation, but we're working on an interactive map as well so that we can show that on our website. You can kind of hover over certain locations and get some information about the projects in more detail than what I've glossed over tonight.
One last question for me, and I'll have other input, you know that.
Yep.
But for the parks, you mentioned, potentially 4 parks in the future, not letting the cat out of the bag. Has properties already been identified for that? And since we're in a public forum, or is the city looking potentially for, people to step forward either in the city limits or within the township limits to donate land or that they want to preserve their land for future park?
Yeah, so since we have a director of parks and a soon-to-be parks board, I'll let them comment on that. I don't want to speculate tonight for fear of misspeaking, but I'd encourage you to reach out to Chris McConnell on that and let him answer that question more thoroughly.
I think the mayor would be happy if somebody wanted to donate their land for a park.
If you want to donate your land for a park, we will take it in a heartbeat. Just give me a call.
That part I feel comfortable speaking for Chris on.
The word's out there, Mayor.
Any other questions for Director Nail this evening? Thank you. Moving on to old business this evening, we have ordinance 24-16, which is North Point 2. We have, I believe, we've had a presentation before on this from staff. This evening, we tabled it at the last meeting. Mayor, would you like to make some comments on this project before us this evening?
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it. So I'm going to try to be brief here, but I want to kind of walk everybody through what's transpired, really, quite frankly, since December of last year, and just kind of get everybody to where we're at today. And I just want to cover real quickly some benefits of this project, and then I'll turn it back over to you guys to say your piece and comments. So as I mentioned, back in December, I asked the residents in this area, in the Anthony Road area and surrounding area, to meet with me here in City Hall or Town Hall to kind of reset the dialogue around North Point 2. And for those of you that don't have the total history, this is the third attempt to try to do something at North Point 2. The first time was a park the Township Trustee's Office took. Second time was North Point 2. Different version of what you see now, but certainly a similar concept with the last council. And I can tell you the residents were very leery of meeting. At times it was a little contentious, but they said their piece. I listened, and from that meeting, we walked away with an understanding that we were going to create a task force led by the residents, and then myself and Councilor McCarty participated as well. And we were going to sit down at the table, we were going to listen, and we were going to try to act in a way that at the end of this process, we could all slap the table with an agreement that create a win-win situation. Make no bones about it. Residents in this area, if I ask them to pick the project or no project, they're going to say no project. Totally get it. But I think they were very gracious in giving us an audience and trying to help us create a better project for everybody in the community. When we started this list, there was, I think, 15 demands on the original list from the task force. We said, hey, tell us what you want. What's this going to take to get you all happy with this project? They started with 15 demands, and we just went through and worked through each one. And I think there were one or two we weren't able to accommodate. I think we found some workarounds with most of them, but for the most part, we were able to address those needs with concessions from Holiday Properties and Chris Wilkes. The reforestation area really was the huge priority, and this was something that didn't exist in the original North Point 2. And it's basically taking the western boundary, where we have residents on Anthony Road who have larger rural lots, and we got Holiday Properties to come to the table and donate 10 acres for a reforestation area that will ultimately, over time, it'll take some time, 5 to 10 years, it's going to create a buffer for those residents. And 10 acres doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're talking Hamilton County dollars, folks, there's nearly $1 million of donated land for this project. That's not an easy ask, and I appreciate Holiday Properties. We couldn't have gotten there without this, so I appreciate them doing that. In the reforestation area, we reached out to DNR and asked them if they would provide a plan of what that reforestation area would look like. So it's a multi-page document. It was designed by a licensed arborist probably many years ago. It's kind of the standard cookie cutter reforestation area that DNR recommends. And that is the plan that we're going to follow. And that's the plan that our task force group have talked about ad nauseum. And we've got everybody slapping the table saying that's the plan we're going to follow. Holiday Properties is going to plant with the saplings. As most of you counselors, all you counselors know, that comes with a 1-year warranty. And so that for that first year, Holiday Properties will replace any sapling that dies during that first year. Probably the biggest stumbling block, I would say, at the very end, I wasn't sure we were going to be able to get there or not. We just couldn't get everybody on the same sheet of music, and that was, how do we maintain this area moving forward? And Holiday Properties volunteered, hey, we'll maintain it up to 3 years. But I'll be honest, I think there's a trust factor here between the residents and Holiday Properties, and quite frankly, the city, because of all the stuff that's happened over the years. And keep in mind, folks, these residents, on again, off again, on. Imagine if it was your home in your backyard and continual projects come, and I think they were just worn out. And so to put this thing together and to get this to the finish line, as you all know, I reached out to our director of parks, Chris McConnell, and asked him, hey, do we as a city have the bandwidth to provide maintenance? It's going to be minimal. If you've ever seen a reforestation area, for the most part, it does its job. DNR sets it up and plants it in a way where it will take off in its own way. But there's some minor maintenance activities that the city has agreed, hey, we will during years 2 and 3 to make the residents more satisfied with the plan that we were going to provide that maintenance. Now, what we didn't promise is that the city was going to bring any money to the project, and we didn't promise we were going to replace a single tree. But what we believe will happen based on the commitments with that $70,000 that's in the PUD is that we have a neighbor that doesn't appear to be interested. Could change their mind, but it looks like we're going to have at a minimum $10,000. It's going to be transferred over to the city for us to maintain. What does that include? Well, we'll see. We'll see how much money's brought over, but I can envision fertilization or, having the staff come out and pull corn stalks if they grow in the cornfield or replacing saplings. Saplings are 40 cents a tree pretty much. We've got enough money to replant that reforestation area probably 4 or 5 times. So we feel very comfortable we've got an allotment that will allow us to give this reforestation area as much chance as we can to succeed. Make sure I'm not forgetting anything here. And I just want to say the level of cooperation and collaboration that we've seen between the city, residents, and the developer, quite frankly, is unprecedented in Westfield, at least probably in the 6 or 7 years I've been involved with the city. And I think because of that, it has resulted in a much better project with very little discourse. I mean, if you were part of this council 2 years ago when North Point 2 came, I mean, this room was packed every single time. In fact, I think there was one meeting we had to kick people out because it exceeded the maximum. And it was very contentious. And it's been very peaceful. It's been very thoughtful. And for that, I am super grateful to Christy and your team and to Chris for you stepping up and doing more than we've asked developers to do, quite frankly, in the past in Westfield. And I'm not saying we're going to do this again, but it was the right move at the right time for the right project. So just a couple of things, and I'll conclude. Some benefits to the taxpayer. First off, I know everybody in this room that's up on that stage, along with me, promised the taxpayers that we were going to diversify our tax base. As I mentioned, 90% of our tax revenue comes from residential homes. It is absolutely imperative if we're going to stabilize our economy in Westfield and lower taxes for residents. We need this kind of project, plain and simple. Total investment once this project is completed will bring estimated, could change depending on the type of projects that come, but estimating about $175 million of assessed value for our commercial tax base, resulting in, again, an estimated $5 million annually in tax revenue for our residents. It will also result in a contribution to our schools through their referendums, estimated $450,000 annually once the project is completed. Folks, this is an absolute tax decrease for every resident in our township. Absolutely, because that money will quickly pay down any referendum. And our schools have shown a history of, as assessed values go up and revenues go up, they decrease that referendum rate. So this will absolutely benefit every taxpayer in our community. Right now, the city has 0 land available, folks, for economic development, for high technology, light industrial, research and development, corporate office space. If I get a call tomorrow and this fails, I got nothing to offer. And we have to say thanks but no thanks. We can't even bid on the project. Nothing's going to change if we don't get this project passed. and it will provide immediately 180 acres of land for economic development to market to corporate America. Another thing, State Road, you all know this in this room, State Road 38 is an absolute key corridor for our city's economic development strategy. This project is step one, and I think it will activate the entire State Road 32 corridor over time. And lastly, and I'll just leave you with this, if this fails for the third time, what kind of message does that send to the development community moving forward? I can tell you right now, State Road 38 and that parcel, Christy probably be real happy to hear this, it will probably sit stagnant for a very, very long time because nobody's going to be crazy enough to come back to try to do this again. This is probably the last chance we have for a very long time. And you think about all the other conversations we're having right now in other areas, I don't know anybody that would come to us with a project if this fails because, I mean, developers have bent over backwards to try to get this to the finish line. So with that, I will yield my time back to President Tam, and I will shut up.
Thank you, Mayor Willis. We have ordinance in front of us this evening. We need a a motion and a second, and then we'll continue with discussion.
Motion to approve ordinance 2416 North Point 2 PUD.
I'll make a second.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. A motion made by Councilor McCarty, a second made by Councilor Waniger. So now council discussion.
I just have one comment.
Turn on your mic. There we go.
I'm fine with the current ordinance, and we spent a lot of time. We tabled this from the last time to prepare an MOU, which I've read, and I'm fine with the MOU. I just don't see that it's referenced. That's my only last point is I feel like the ordinance needs to reference the MOU. Otherwise, we have two separate documents that don't go together.
Oh, sorry. I'm not very concerned because the MOU references the ordinance, and to me, this is kind of separate. It's not something you would normally see in a PUD or anything like this. So I just didn't want to get into the habit of referencing or using MOUs. I think this is, like you said, a really unique situation. And because I think the main reason it's important is because of the designee reference, so that the developer's agreeing to be the designee for the city to get the city out of the money aspect. That was kind of my advice, why I didn't think we should reference the MOU in the ordinance.
Are we approving the MOU then today?
No, so that would be between the administration and the owner, but it was finalized, I mean, not signed yet, but agreed upon by both parties so that you all could see it and move forward based on everyone's intent moving forward.
Any other questions, Councilor Deppner?
And I would just add that Joe, Councilor Deppner, I appreciate what you're asking. And we did reach out to outside counsel just to verify, because this is complicated. It's not a simple black and white, and they agreed that this approach was the direction we needed to go. So.
Yeah, I'm struggling how we're connecting two independent documents if we're not referencing them. We're approving one and not even voting on the other, then how do we hold someone's feet to the fire if we're not putting those two together? That's all I'm struggling with. I agree with the language in both documents at this point. It's just, how do we tie the two together?
So I guess the way I think about it is that this administration of the money is totally separate from the actual PUD and the zoning matters that are happening in there. So that's kind of an administrative piece of it. So while they are connected, it's not something that you would typically want to put in a PUD just because it's a matter of administration of the funds. I think if we started to detail things about the reforestation area or different matters, then that would be different. It would be part of the PUD.
This is the last thing I'll say. We can move on, but I'm not saying to put the language of the MOU in this document. I was just saying one paragraph that says pursuant to the MOU or CMOU. So it's referencing something. So we have a plan and we know all the details that we've gone over in that big document. But if you read this document, you wouldn't even know it exists. But that's all I'll say about that.
Anyone else? Councilor Huff.
Yeah. Um, I hear you loud and clear, Scott. And I have very few concerns about the development in general. I know it's extremely important to get some shovel-ready ground. As you know, I do have some major concerns on the 10 acres and how that deal is structured. And it's kind of a hard spot to sit up here and discuss that because on one hand, it's hurting the developer. On the other hand, it's hurting the residents a little bit. I've had a couple good conversations with the residents up there, and I appreciate everyone that went to the negotiation table and hatched all that stuff out. I wish that we could have had a better plan on the 10 acres to leave the city out of it in its entirety. My preference would have been that the 70 grand is a third party, and my preference would have been I don't want to leave the homeowners up there without any security, and so my preference would have been on the maintain of the trees to have a third party as well on that. And so that's all I got to say right now.
And I'll recognize, I mean, this isn't the perfect plan. I mean, I think it's a great plan. I think we've worked really hard at it. But if you ask the task force, if you ask Chris, you ask me, all three of us would probably prefer a different version of this. But I guess I would argue that's why it's good government, because we've compromised, we've met in the middle. They've been at times a little bit contentious in terms of the conversations, emotional at times, but I feel like everybody worked together in collaboration to get to where we're at. I don't know how we move forward other than what we've gotten. There's been a lot of back and forth, and I do feel like this is where everybody landed and could say we could live with this. But I certainly appreciate if I was sitting in your seat, I would probably feel the same way. So,
Any other council comments or discussion this evening? On behalf of myself, which I typically haven't done, the diversification on the tax base is sorely needed. I think all residents understand that. Frankly, no one in the state understands how a city of our size and growth is operating successfully at 90% residential tax base. To be very frank, if you're trying to bring a business, a company into Westfield, we have nothing available. At this time, we've missed out on significant investment during an unbelievable period of the state's growth, where there's been billions upon billions of dollars worth of commercial investment. Westfield received very little to none, other than standard quick service restaurants, some standard other projects that does not positively impact our tax base in the manner of this type of project. An investment of $175 million of assessed valuation with tax revenue, potentially of $5 million, $450,000 going to schools is sorely needed, sorely and absolutely needed. But the other issue, though, too, with the MOU, which I do share Councilor Deppner's concerns about, with the ordinance being drafted in a manner of it assigns its designee, my take, just to be very simple, is that we've all seen the MOU. We've seen that both attorneys, if you will, on behalf of the city, behalf of the developer, have reviewed it. I don't think the developer's interested at this point killing the deal on something of this situation. So I believe that word and, frankly, those agreements that we've seen in writing as well are very valid, and I'm comfortable moving forward. At the same time, though, these types of projects are very tough. If this was in my backyard, I would not be happy. And it is very much a challenge. So I do appreciate the mayor and, frankly, the residents, too, in terms of bringing your concerns. And my questions in the background has always been, can we put this in plain English so we don't actually anticipate resident understanding? Well, the developer is going to have to go to DNR and IDEM, which acronyms most residents shouldn't know. Department of Environmental Management, where you have to get then those certain permits that then may, frankly, potentially satisfy some of your concerns, good concerns. So a lot of that, I believe, has actually been reflected in that this ordinance has been written a little bit different. So just to try to make sure that the residents know that what you asked for is there, which I do appreciate our planning department and the mayor and frankly, the development team, the petitioners, in doing so. I would ask, though, too, developers and our planning department in the future, particularly when we're dealing with very concerned, intelligent residents with legitimate, bona fide concerns, that we continue that path, that we try to address residents in that manner in terms of providing them a document they can actually read and understand and take that back to their kitchen table and take a look at. So appreciate you working through this. I do not envy your position, but I am empathetic as well as all the other counselors, regardless of our position this evening. We do appreciate it. Any other discussion? We've had a motion by Councilor McCarty. It was seconded by Councilor Waniger. We've had discussion. May we call the roll?
Victor McCarty,
Yes.
Patrick Tam,
Yes.
Kurt Waninger,
Yes.
John Dart,
Yes.
Joe Deppner,
Yes.
Noah Heron,
Yes.
Chad Huff.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Moving on to new business this evening, which is this ordinance 24-27, which is establishing Fund 255 for Westfield Welcome. We'll have a quick presentation this evening by our Deputy Mayor.
No presentation, but a comment.
But comment, yes. It's simple.
Good evening, council members. For the record, Danielle Carey-Tolan. We are doing this as just administrative action. We have a fund, a 205 fund, and then we're creating the 255 fund. These are restricted funds. We had to separate them to one of them because they were under the Parks Beautification 205 fund, and all that money is really Westfield Welcome, which is restricted for all the sponsorship and entries to different events. We need it now, since we've created a whole nother Parks Department and Westfield Welcome under facilities and events, we need to create a new fund, which is 255. So it's just an administrative action that I would like for you guys to take. And if I would also request that you guys amend the rules tonight and approve this so we can clear up the books for the clerk treasurer. And if she has any other comments or questions, we're here to answer those.
If it's not too much trouble, it would be much simpler for us, having just finished the quarter, to have you guys suspend those rules so we can get everything tight and right as far as our books go. It is not appropriation of any more money than what's already been budgeted. We're just going to move it into a new account so that it can be properly used by the right department.
Yeah, for those of you in the public that I know you all watch our 3 o'clock meetings for the Finance Committee, because they're very riveting. But we asked a question. Our Finance Committee is chaired by Councilor Waniger. Councilor Dart serves on that along as well as I do. If this would be best to suspend the rules this evening, specifically to the clerk treasurer, and you just heard her speak on that. So I would be fine with that, but Councilor?
I'm fine with moving forward with this tonight. I'd like to make a motion to amend the rules tonight and make a motion to suspend the rules and vote on this ordinance tonight.
Thank you. We have a second?
Second.
Councilor Waniger has made a motion. Councilor Huff has seconded. This is to suspend the rules specifically. We'll have to vote on that first. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, can we call the roll?
Patrick Tam,
Yes.
Kurt Waninger,
Yes.
John Dart,
Yes.
Joe Deppner,
Yes.
Noah Heron,
Yes.
Chad Huff,
Yes.
Victor McCarty.
Yes.
Motion to suspend the rules carries 7-0.
So we've suspended the rules, so now we need a motion to pass ordinance 24-27. May we have a motion?
Motion to approve ordinance 24-27, establishing Fund 255.
Second.
We have a motion made by Councilor McCarty, seconded by Councilor Huff. Any further discussion? Hearing none, may we call the roll?
Kurt Waninger,
Yes.
John Dart,
Yes.
Joe Deppner,
Yes.
Noah Heron,
Yes.
Chad Huff,
Yes.
Victor McCarty,
Yes.
Patrick Tam.
Yes.
Motion carries with great thanks, 7-0.
You're welcome. Always, when we have a proclamation recognizing our clerk treasurer, we'd like to at least do your wishes. So, do we have any city council comments this evening?
As President Tam mentioned, well, a little bit earlier, we did have our Finance Committee meeting today, so those documents are posted online. If any of the council members or anybody from the general public has any questions or reviews any of the information, would like to discuss those with myself or any of the council members on the Finance Committee, be open for those discussions.
I'll just go ahead and give my APC recap real quick. Last week we had our workshop meeting. We had only 2 items. We discussed the Westwood PUD, which is the event center between Sundown and Urban Apples. The 2 lots were consolidated to 1, no parking along Spring Mill, a couple other updates. Please, again, if you guys have any thoughts, questions, comments, concerns before the next APC meeting, please let me know so I can make sure to represent you in the best way possible. And then we also had the UDO update and just minor updates there. 2 highlights I want to mention is updates to non-conforming lots around the city, and then also a big time saver is that it'll help alleviate the majority of pull requests from going to the BZA, and it can just be a staff handled thing. So that is all.
Thank you. Any other comments, Mayor?
No comments from mine.
Thank you, Mayor. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
We are hereby adjourned. I don't ask for a vote. Yes, we do.
I'm just here for the big